Day Weather Podcast brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at WyomingAdvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Well, we're going to be looking at some weather across the region that won't be unlike what we saw yesterday, as subtropical moisture will be suppressed well to the south. So the southern Rockies, part of the far southern areas of the desert southwest and the southern plains, will have the action today as isolated thunderstorms elsewhere. But we do see moisture coming back. The door opens. The door is really closed right now to many areas, but it opens late this week and into the weekend as the high shifts to the east, opening the door to subtropical moisture. Fingers and toes crossed that we can get some thunderstorms that produce rain west of the Continental Divide here later this week. Let's hope. Thunderstorm activity will pick up again both sides of the divide and into the high country during that stretch, along with what I would call typical August temperatures. We're also going to give you a sea surface temperature update out in the Pacific, kind of gauge where we are this year compared to the last year or so and what that might mean in the seasonal forecast. And speaking of seasonal forecasts, they're coming out right now. We will have our seasonal forecast sometime later this week. I don't know what day this week, but before the week's over, I'll get our fall winter forecast out and we'll let you know when that is available to take a look at. The moon has just been spectacular, kind of putting a damper on the Perseid meteor shower, but Jupiter and Venus very close together in the evening sky, that bright moon out there. So yeah, that is not a sunset, that is the moon. Another great shot of the moon from Sabile Canyon, and another great shot of those altocumulus clouds that we saw over the weekend, and that low-level moisture out into the plains, filling up areas near Torrington, south of Torrington there, along the Platte River Valley. As we look at the clouds, the beautiful pictures that you're seeing here, basically expect more of the same as we go through the course of the next couple of days, where we'll have a little bit of mid-level moisture, giving us those great sunrises and sunsets. But the deeper moisture, as you can see in the satellite photo this morning, is down here into this arc as the cold front and the drier, more stable air continues to push all of that off to the south. So thunderstorm activity will be down into these areas here, into the Great Lakes, the Midwest, and the southern areas. What will eventually happen, though, especially this area of moisture right here, which is kind of stuck in northern Mexico, barely getting into southern Arizona and southern New Mexico, it's just going to kind of sit there and wait before it gets the opportunity to move back north again. And that's what we're going to see. For today, you'll see southern Arizona, maybe the Phoenix, Tucson areas getting into some showers and thunderstorms. Eastern New Mexico got rain yesterday. That'll be the case again today. Now, we have a little bit of isolated thunder that you'll see here. This is just not going to amount to much, but there will be a little bit of activity. This is the type of thunderstorm activity that you don't want to see because you get lightning, you get very little rain, and you get a lot of wind with these thunderstorms. So basically north of that line, you get gusty, isolated thunderstorms, rain-producing thunderstorms down here in the deeper moisture. And that's where the Storm Prediction Center is predicting the thunderstorms to be today. Looking at the 500 millibar pattern, 18,000 feet here. And just a quick review. When I show you these maps, I like to use 500 millibars or 18,000 feet because this is the level of the atmosphere that really drives a lot of our systems, the lows, the highs. The upper levels are always reflected down to the surface. And this is a good level to show you. The colors here represent basically the warmth of the atmosphere. So the brighter colors under these highs here, the atmosphere is warmer at 18,000 feet. Then as you go north, as you would expect, as the colors change, the atmosphere gets colder. And this is exactly what you'd expect with the higher latitudes compared to the lower latitudes. And then the mid-latitudes, the classic, you're in between the two. You're in between the colder air to the north and the much warmer air in the lower latitudes. And that's why we tend to see the jet stream form right along that boundary. And the systems form along that boundary as well. So that's what those colors mean, just for those of you that might be new to the podcast. Now, as we shift from today, the high is over far western areas of Arizona, just south of Las Vegas here. That trapped monsoonal moisture is right here. It doesn't have a chance to really come up, but it is going to stay down there, and that's going to keep those showers and thunderstorms going. But look what happens by the end of the week. So this is today. This is Friday. So this shift east of the high from near Las Vegas to near Tulsa is going to open the door. It's going to open the door right here. So the flow of air comes right back on in. So this is a good pattern to bring that subtropical moisture back to the central and southern Rockies for sure, while the northern Rockies will be affected by the jet stream coming in the Pacific Northwest, which has been a very persistent pattern over the last month and a half or so, where these lows just keep coming into the Pacific Northwest and keeping it very stormy in the upper Midwest and the northern plains, and we'll see that again. But this flow coming back on in does result in thunderstorms increasing in the Rockies again, and the precipitable water loop starting from today through Saturday shows that. The erosion of the brown to white to green to areas of blue, and you'll see that green start to come back up and come on through the area and get going again. So the end result is this. Thunderstorm activity starts to come and be more apparent to the northern areas again on the day Wednesday. Then Thursday, we can see the moisture come up deeper into Arizona, hopefully maybe getting some rain in the Grand Canyon area where that fire is, and some of the fires that have been going for a long time in Utah. Hopefully western Colorado can get into the mix, especially Thursday and especially Friday. Thursday and Friday, areas west of the divide, you've got some rain chances. Let's hope they produce some rain for you. And then east of the divide, we're getting into more active showers and thunderstorms as well, and that takes us into Saturday. So Wednesday, we start to see the thunderstorms pop up a little bit more. Then for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and into the day Sunday, we're going to see the thunderstorms continue to spread. Now notice we have another dry patch come into western slope areas during the day Sunday. So western slope, your opportunity really is Thursday through Saturday. Thursday through Sunday, further out into the plains, and you can see Montana and Idaho get into the action, western Wyoming as well, because of some of that interaction from the jet stream. This is pretty typical for a mid-August pattern right here, to have the door opening and closing. It opens up again, and through this whole period, we don't have any strong cold fronts. Temperatures will be August warm. So there'll be plenty of heat, but nothing too crazy with those temperatures. Now let's review sea surface temperature anomalies to where we are now, and this is going to play a very large role when we talk the seasonal forecast that we'll bring out later this week. What you're seeing on this map are what we call sea surface temperature anomalies, which basically means where you see the brighter red, orange colors, the sea surface temperature, the water temperature right at the surface, and this is important because this is where the water's touching the atmosphere. Keep in mind that the globe is 70% water, so 70% of our atmosphere is touching these waters. So this is why the oceans are so critical in understanding the ocean interaction. We live on land. We tend to, especially if you live in the middle of the country, you kind of forget the oceans, but the oceans are really important as the atmosphere and the oceans are coupled. So what the ocean temperature is doing is going to affect the atmosphere above it, and that affects not only temperature, but the amount of water that's going to be in the air and all of these other things. So where we were a year ago, we were seeing the start of the La Nina forming. This time last year that played a big role in the fall and early winter of 24 to 25. We also have a year ago those warmer water temperatures in the North Pacific, as we'll show you like we're seeing now, although they were kind of split, bifurcated a bit, those warmer water temperatures. So if we compare to where we were a year ago, as the date August 10th here shows, to where we are now, there's some similarities. But notice the North Pacific is much warmer. We have this very warm plume off the coast of Japan that we showed you a couple of weeks ago that is affecting things and will likely affect things heading into the fall. But look how warm relative to the 30-year average those water temperatures are in the North Pacific. Now keep in mind, the colors are a little deceiving. This doesn't mean you jump in the water and it feels tropical. Those are still very cold waters up there, but they are warmer relative to the 30-year average of sea surface temperatures. That's why anomalies are good to use to kind of highlight where we're watching. We also notice, you see the coolness here. This is basically the weakening La Nina. It's not a La Nina anymore. It's a neutral status. We have it warm here. We have it colder here. We're still in neutral conditions. But instead of this La Nina or these colder water temperatures dominating, they're not here. This is a little bit of something new that could play a role later on. We'll have to watch it because that cold pocket wasn't there a year ago. And if we go back and take a look at what we call an analog year, which is when was the last time we went into fall and winter with a neutral sea surface temperature in the subtropics, meaning it's not an El Nino or a La Nina. It's in between. It's neutral. Last time that happened was 2019, which I'm showing you here. Now, the La Nina, the colder water, was more robust in August of that year. But notice the North Pacific was pretty warm as well. So you never see anything that's exactly the same. You never do that. You never expect that. But you look for similarities, and there's some similarities here. And when we talk into the seasonal forecast, we're going to talk about the year of 2019 because I do think it's a good analog as we go into the fall and season of 25 into 26. We'll have more for you tomorrow and later this week. Have yourself a good Tuesday.